Hello, everybody. Professor Barth is here, history professor at Arizona State University. Going audio only today. There was a Harvard University study that came out either yesterday or this morning, recently, this week. And most of you have probably seen it, but it's a study by the Shorenstein Center on Media, Politics, and Public Policy. And it's a very interesting study. It gathered statistics on a media coverage that Trump received from 10 different mainstream television networks, as well as print newspapers. And, well, before I go to these stats, which are pretty startling, quite honestly. Although we knew this, right? It's not a surprise. It's like we don't need a study to tell us what we already know, but still, it's pretty amazing when you look at the stats. But before I go over that, just to my friends on the left, right? Remember, this is the same media that was so extremely biased against Bernie Sanders a year ago during the Democratic primary, right? And we all know that the corporate mainstream media was on the side of Hillary, no doubt about it. Bernie received unfair treatment. CNN even got caught feeding the Hillary Clinton campaign town hall debate questions beforehand. And so remember, this is the same media, okay? And you're going to want to ask yourself, again, speaking to my friends on the left, you're going to want to ask yourself, when the corporate media is so universally against something, or so universally for something, right? Like the 2003 invasion of Iraq. You have to ask yourself, when it happens, why is that? Now, it doesn't mean that you, by default, take the opposite position. What it does mean, though, is that you ought to examine the issue extra carefully, extra critically. So back to the study. This study found that CNN, NBC, and CBS had a negative tone of news coverage over 90% of the time that the story was about Trump. Over 90%. The New York Times and Washington Post were over 80% of the time. Even the Wall Street Journal was 70%. And then look at this. Fox News was negative 52% of the time. And I think that probably has something to do with, you still have a lot of neoconservatives at Fox News, and neoconservatives just don't like Trump. They like global empire. They like nation building, and Trump's victory in the primary was essentially an assault, a victory against the Republican establishment, which has been controlled by neoconservatives for so many years. With respect to specific topics concerning Trump, of course, immigration, 96% negative. Healthcare, Russia, 87% negative. And down the line. The best was the economy. And this should be no surprise, right? Given the stock market performance. I don't know. I think the stock market's in a bubble right now. But bubble or not, it's been really strong. So not a surprise that economy is going to get the best coverage. We've had good jobs reports numbers. We've had companies moving back to the United States. We saw an end to TPP, which was definitely a big victory. But even here, the economy was 54% negative. There was one subject in the study where Trump received extremely positive coverage. The only subject, actually, where he received majority positive coverage, and that was Syria, the missile strike. 80% of the reports were positive. And again, that's not a surprise either, right? Because the missile strike in Syria, the warfare state, and the media and their corporate sponsors, they like war. A lot of their sponsors make money from war. And so I wasn't really shocked to see those numbers. And then finally, let's take a look at the tone of coverage for Trump compared to previous presidents. I mean, this is really astounding right here. Trump, 80% negative on average. And of course, as you saw, some of the media outlets were over 90%. But when you weigh it together, it's 80%. Clinton was 60% negative. That's pretty negative, actually, 60%. Bush Jr. was just around the same range at 57%. And then Obama, only 41%, 59% positive for Obama. So out of all the presidents we've had since the 90s, well, I don't know what H.W. Bush was, but I presume it was probably around the Clinton-Bush Jr. range. Out of all the presidents we've had since the 90s, only one has received overwhelmingly positive coverage, and that's Barack Obama. So anyway, really interesting study, and just tells you a lot, honestly. And again, it doesn't mean you can't conclude based on that alone that you should take the opposite position. But it's a red flag, right? It's definitely a red flag. Well, that is all for today. A little brief video. I hope you all are doing well, and I will see you later. God bless.